Welcome to the Motherhood Alliance podcast, the podcast dedicated to empowering moms and families on their health and wellness journey. I'm Brittany Suttner.
And I'm Andrea Rinkus. Together, we're here to explore holistic approaches that go beyond conventional medicine.
Each week, we dive into topics that matter most to you. Everything from nutrition and mental health to alternative therapies and natural living.
And whether you're a new mom navigating the early stages of parenthood or a seasoned pro looking for new ways to support your family's well-being, you're in the right place.
Even better, all of our guests are local small business owners who you can actually talk to and work with. You can learn more about today's guest and connect with hundreds of other health and wellness professionals through our informative and easy-to-use directory at motherhoodalliance.com.
Before we get started, keep in mind that this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and is not a substitute for personal healthcare advice. Please consult your healthcare provider before making any changes based on the podcast content.
Thank you for joining us on this journey. Are you ready to help your family thrive? Let's get started. Hi, we are Britt and Andrea from motherhoodalliance.com, and we are excited to welcome you to a 4-episode series with Stephanie Bohn, a highly skilled speech-language pathologist and the founder of Rooted at Home, a Fox Cities-based therapy practice that brings speech, language, and feeding support right to where families feel most comfortable, and this would mean into their home, meeting them at parks, joining them at childcare centers, or even virtually. Stephanie holds a master's in speech-language pathology, a bachelor's in communication sciences and disorders, and is a certified lactation counselor, so she knows her stuff. But what makes Stephanie truly special is her passion to help all families have deep conversations and stress-free meal times. This passion stemmed from a deep personal experience with her grandma, which she shares about in episode 1. In our 4 episodes together, we chat about early communication tips, picky eating, how therapy doesn't have to happen in a clinic to make a big impact, and how to utilize play to help kids develop healthy communication and eating skills. On a personal level, Stephanie was born and raised here in the Fox Valley, and she finds joy in reading, biking, baking all things sourdough, and spending time with her husband. Let's welcome Stephanie to the show. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Motherhood Alliance podcast. We are super excited to kick off a brand new series, and we have Stephanie here with us. Welcome to the show, Stephanie.
Thank you for having me.
She is the owner of Rooted at Home, and she's the first speech-language pathologist that we've had on the show. And so we're super excited to be able to ask her questions about picky eating, early communication, a ton of other things. You guys are going to love this series. But before we get started, we always love to hear a fun fact about a new guest. And so your fun fact was pretty interesting. It's related to the Green Bay Packers. Why don't you tell us about it?
My great-grandfather was actually on the board of directors, and for a while he sold tickets at his drugstore. He was a pharmacist.
Oh, interesting.
And sold tickets, and that's kind of how he made his way there. And we have 8 season tickets together, and my sister and I were some of the last grandchildren to be put on the wait list under his name. So
cool. Oh, neat.
Do you know what years he was on the board of directors? Was this like back when the Packers were first getting started?
Great question. I have no clue. My grandma's going to be disappointed in me that I didn't know the answer to that.
That's okay. We can't know everything, right? But that's still a fun
you
fact.
will
and a
soon
fun,
enough.
Yes. Yeah, fun connection. So we'd love to learn about you, Stephanie, before we jump into these topics. And so speech-language pathology is it's well known, I think, in the area, but a lot of people don't really actually know what you do. How did you become interested in this field in the first place?
So my interest originally started after seeing my grandma recover after having a series of medical complications that landed her in the nursing home. And I got to see her ultimately recover with the help of a speech therapist. So her journey was mostly feeding, and I got to feed her some of her first solid foods after being on a feeding tube for several months.
How old were you at the time?
I was a freshman in high school.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
They're doing all like the career study, take this quiz, see what, might come up. And speech therapist was actually on that list. And my high school counselor kind of helped me take a deep dive into it. And I committed from there and just went for it.
Nice.
So is this a 4-year degree?
So you have to get a bachelor's degree. And then it requires a master's degree after that for additional schooling.
Okay. And then when you're in schooling, are there different specialties within speech-language pathology that people can pick?
So when you go to school for speech therapy, you go to school for all of it. And I think a lot of people realize after they're out of school, what they find like that passion for. And, they try and help you discover that like when you're in school, but it's really hard to know when you're like, you could have all these different areas. You just kind of refine it after you start seeing certain populations and really feel that passion for it.
So what about you? What is your niche that you love to work with?
Pediatrics is my jam. I typically see kids from birth through 6 years old is what I'm really passionate about.
Okay. So within that season of life of birth through 6 years old, what are the most common concerns or challenges that parents are typically coming with?
The most common areas that I support families with is feeding therapy, including like those picky eating areas, just difficulty on solids, gagging, choking, vomiting, all that. And also that early language development of helping kids really learn how to communicate within their family system in a way that works best for them.
I love the population that you work with because this is such an exciting season of life. Like every day there's new milestones and things to clap about. So I don't know if you have an answer to this, but like what is your favorite part about helping kids in this arena, especially when it comes to helping them find their voice?
It is incredible when parents are able to share like the new things that their child is doing from the strategies that we are trying. And it's so exciting when I get that text of like, you won't believe it, like they said mama, or I got to hear them say their sibling's name for the first time. They want it so bad and it's so rewarding to hear that. Or, hey, my kiddo took 3 ounces of a bottle today and they didn't have to use the feeding tube. That's the ultimate like reward for me is just hearing parents share that excitement, but like helping them get there so that they're doing the work with their child, not just me having like the magic wand and working with their child.
Right. Yeah. You really bring in the whole family to everything.
What are the typical options for speech therapy? Because I think a lot of people have heard about things like birth to 3, or they know, I think there's SLPs that are in schools, if I know correctly.
Yeah. But
that's obviously school-aged kids. Mm-hmm. So what are all the options for speech therapy and what are kind of the pros and cons of each one?
Mm-hmm. So there is birth to 3. That is for any child who might have developmental concerns in any of the 5 areas. So communication, adaptive, which is like those self-help feeding skills, cognitive, gross motor, and then social emotional. So you typically have to have a 25% delay or more in one of those areas to be eligible for birth to 3. So that's one option. Then after 3 years old, kids can go into the school system and get evaluated there. They also have to meet eligibility criteria there. There's also outpatient therapy. So, you get your referral from your doctor and say like, who can I go to? Each medical system typically has their own like group of therapists that they refer to. That's through using your medical insurance benefits. And sometimes insurance doesn't cover it if, there's certain reasons for everything, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then there comes in therapists like myself who do private pay. And really we are giving access to any family who wants that support. So, if a child's not eligible for birth to 3 or they're not eligible elsewhere and a family still has concerns, that's where Rooted at Home can come in and really help support that when families still want a speech therapist, but they can't get it like anywhere else.
Mm-hmm. And I've had friends that I can think of off the top of my head who were like, we got evaluated. We were said that we didn't qualify because of that percentage level. Mm-hmm. And now, but as a mom, I have that feling in my gut that we need some help here. Right. And so I think that's amazing what you do. Yeah. And you also go into people's homes. You'll meet them at the park. Like you'll meet them wherever their child is comfortable. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Some fun visits happen when you leave it up to the families of where they want to meet, but it's really meeting them where they want to see the progress and where do you want to work on it? Where are you in the thick of it where this is really hard, and joining them in that. And the cool thing is that I don't have a wait list for families. I'm very realistic about timelines. There's, when we talked about those other places that you can get therapy, I've had families say that there's up to a 6-month wait list.
Oh my gosh.
It's a really long time when we're talking about early intervention and wanting to make sure that we're just jumping on it as early as we can.
Yeah. And I know before we hopped on the mic here, you were telling us even just about an experience yesterday. And I love this. Can you just share a little bit about it? Because I think it just really paints the picture of going to a space where the kid is comfortable and they're acting like themselves. Mm-hmm. So you could do a true evaluation. Tell us a little bit about that.
So I went out to visit with a family yesterday for a first visit just to kind of get to know them and learn more about their concerns. And I showed up with my notepad and my computer just in case like it was, a time that I could use it to get some notes done initially. And the family asked if we could play outside. And the kids were all running around barefoot on the trampoline, on the swing set. They had all of their animals out, the ducks, the chickens. There was some birds I don't think I've ever seen. I couldn't even tell you what they were called. They were running around in their front yard, and I was told it was the neighbors. So, that's where the evaluation took place. I got to hear about, the parents' concerns and what they want to work on and what they're struggling with. And I got to observe that child in their most natural environment while jumping on the trampoline. And it's just really cool to see all of that naturally happen. And from that very first time of meeting the family, my head is already like just running with ideas of how can we do this. And a lot of parents apologize for having like siblings around. I love it because that's how your family system operates. It's with your other children, right? And you can't always do therapy in the context of one-on-one with the child because that's not how your family system operates. So how can we use the siblings and their strengths and what they love to do with their sibling, right? Like it all works together so that it's really the whole family working on it.
Yeah, I love that. Like if you bring a child into a clinic setting, it's going to be completely different feeling for them. And oftentimes I bet that they may even clam up or they don't, you just can't evaluate them for what they really do and what they say.
Yeah. I used to work in the outpatient setting and it was really hard to get that carryover. And I felt really conscious of like, how can I help these parents? But I have 3 minutes quick to give them a quick summary of like, this is what I did today. And then say, okay, see you next week. And I just felt so empty and like how am I helping them? Right. And if I can get your child to say a word for me or take a first bite for me and not gag, great. But like now you're going home feeling like, why can't I do that?
Yeah.
So by going to the house, by going to the park, by going to grandparents' house, to daycare, right? Like those are all areas that I get to support families, and it's the big picture.
Well, and you're building relationships and personalizing it for them. And that's Absolutely. Why it's so important, I think, with private pay is that people can just get what they need and there's no one telling them or you what you have to get done.
Yeah.
And I feel like you're setting up the child for the approach of looking at therapy, like therapy is fun.
Yeah.
Instead of therapy is either scary or uncomfortable. I don't want to do that. It's more like, oh, Miss Stephanie's coming over today. Yay.
Yeah.
Maybe she'll jump on the
play
trampoline
games with
me.
Yeah. People say the speech lady's here. The kids will like run out. I'm like, don't call me that. Like, I just want to be Steph, know?
Well, in this episode, we are staying higher level because I think a lot of people just don't really understand what you do. Let's just stay high level by starting with the lactation side. I know that there's SLPs, you are certified in lactation, but then there's also lactation consultants that's all that they do. What's the difference and like when should a mom call one or the other?
Mm-hmm. So there's 2 different types of certifications for lactation. So there's CLCs and there are IBCLCs, and we actually have several IBCLCs within our Motherhood Alliance group that I work with frequently. So my passion for feeding, I really wanted to learn more about helping moms with that like lactation side of things and successfully nursing. But those IBCLCs have so much more training, and that's a lot of times like all that they do, or it's a nurse paired with that. The CLC is still 60 hours of coursework, and you have to pass an exam and all that fun stuff. But I really wanted it to just kind of help me build off of what I already knew from speech therapy and feeding therapy. Both certifications are going to be able to offer you some of that troubleshooting and just like what is happening here, and answer some of those like questions of like strategies and positioning and, milk supply and all those different things that you a lot of times have no idea and you do not have enough time to Google, right? Like all of those different things. So sometimes even like one visit can really help. I just really wanted to get that extra certification so that when I had moms who wanted to bottle and breastfeed, that I could help with that. And I do a lot of times too, like if I feel like it's over, something that I'm like, oh, I just want like another opinion on, I'll work with other lactation counselors within our Motherhood Alliance group to say like, hey, I met with this family a couple times. This is what I'm seeing, and we've offered visits together. Like, let's both meet together with the mom to like put our heads together. So we have the flexibility to do that. And when you talk about private pay, it doesn't happen in the outside world. Insurance isn't going to pay for two people.
Why would they do that? Yeah, exactly.
Well, let's dip our toe a little bit into the communication side. And like I said, we'll dive in pretty deep into our next episode. But from birth until about 6 months old, babies are they're exclusively either breastfed or formula fed. So where do you, other than the lactation piece, if we're talking about early communication, they're typically not talking yet, like saying words, and they're not eating solids yet. But what can we do during that time frame to help set babies up for success with future talking and eating?
So when we think about that communication standpoint, there's so many things that happen early on. I think the number one thing to think about when we're thinking about, okay, how are we helping a child develop their language early? It is thinking about, okay, can they hear? Do they have,
that's a good
that start. Is the first step. Then we think about like, what are we exposing them to, right? So if you're making breakfast, like, can they be on the counter in their like swing or chair, just hanging out, like exposing them to that language early on and being around it. And a lot of times I think we try to be quiet around the babies or, like don't disrupt them. They need all of that exposure to help them develop that language. And when we're in their face saying hi and we're waving, right? Like we're helping them associate, like that's a social greeting. There's just like having your baby in the thick of life with you, no matter what's going on, what siblings are doing, like that is the best thing you can do.
I just remember like somebody telling me when my kids were, especially my firstborn, because there's not mass chaos with other kids and everything around, but like just talk to them, just talk out loud, talk when you're in the kitchen, say, hey, this is what I'm doing, blah, 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 blah. I hope daddy comes home soon, just saying things randomly, And
like looking out the window, like, oh, you hear the lawnmower? Like you're just helping them learn that language. But you had also asked about just like that feeding, trying to also allow for space of just including them on anything to do with food. Like a lot of times families will focus on like, okay, I just want them to eat like something new, or I want to try this, but it's like, what are they smelling? Like what are we, like when we go to the grocery store, like that's part of eating.
Oh, sure.
Right? Like how does this food show up in my fridge? Like take them with you. A lot of times it's easier and it's way more efficient, right? To go to the store without your kids, but just bring them along, give them that exposure so they can see those things too.
Good point.
Parents oftentimes, they just want their kids to start talking.
Absolutely.
Right? They're like at 3 months old, say mama. And it's like, what? So asking you, because you're the expert on this, at what age is this desire appropriate? And do babies need any skills in place before they can start talking?
So when you think about like that foundation, right? So when you're talking about just interacting with your child, you need that eye contact for them to know, right? Like, hey, mom's talking to me, or like we're having a moment together. And in the therapy world, we call that joint attention. You have to have that shared understanding of what you're looking at. For them to really like understand what you're talking about. Even the babbling or cooing back and forth when they're just a couple months old and smiling, that's the foundation for communication. You have to have that conversation of back and forth. You take a turn, I take a turn.
Yeah.
So even if it's, they're not saying mama at 4 months old yet, because we wouldn't expect that. But if they're babbling, mom, yeah, that's me, I'm mama. Like just helping them like associate that versus telling them to say mama. A lot of kids don't respond well to that pressure anyways, but if we can help them like associate, yep, that's me. Or, they're babbling, da. Oh yeah, he's coming home soon. Like you said, right? Yeah. So just kind of that association.
And I've heard you talk about receptive versus expressive language. Is this kind of what you're talking about here, is like receiving and giving?
Yeah. So receptive language is what is being said and that understanding of oh, when mom says, hey, let's wave to the neighbor, right? Like our hand goes up, we wave. You have to understand that that's like what mom is asking you to do in those times. If mom says, hey, let's wave to the neighbor and say hi, now that's that expressive piece of how is the child expressing themselves with, is it signs? Is it words? Is it gestures? Is it a sound, a happy squeal, right? That's expressive communication.
Okay.
You really need that receptive language of understanding and shared meaning before we tackle. So when families are like, I just want them to say this. Okay, well, sometimes we have to work on those foundations.
A little bit.
Take a step back first.
Well, and I think what you're doing is so important. And just this season, this short season of life when the kids are babies and they're learning language is just so important, not just because we get to enjoy it, but really communication is happening between at least two people, sometimes more, right, in a group setting. And it's more than just forming words, but it's actually like building or breaking relationships based off the words that we're saying. And words are important and words are powerful. So how do we start to foster a positive relationship with our kids from an early age?
We think about words and meaning. It's all, in my mind, within the context of your family system of what words are you using in your home? How are we creating meaning as a family? And, within the community too, right? So how are we using them? What words are we using in certain situations? Your kids are always listening and watching, even if sometimes we don't think they are. That's when, parents are like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know that they knew that word. Well, they had to hear it somewhere and see that word being used.
I feel like books and reading and exposing them to even like a little bit more than what you think baby books are, Yeah. I did that with my kids, and even just using bigger words and then explain when they're a little bit older too, but explaining what they mean so they can use those appropriately.
Yeah. Books are so great for developing language. And I know everyone's like, read a book, but really like just look at a book. Like there's no rules of having to read every single word. And I always tell parents, there is no book reading police. You can point out one thing on each page and like, that's reading. Like, let's redefine what reading means, because I think there's so much pressure of, from wherever it comes from, but just how you should do it. And really, like, if you and your child are looking at that book and having that shared attention on it, like that's book reading, and it's okay. We don't have to get through every single word.
You say book police.
Okay, I laugh.
Know exactly
what you're going to say with this, because I was thinking
my kids would be the book police when they were little.
Like 4 or 5.
They'd be like, you missed a page, or that's not how it goes, mommy.
See, that's when language is going really well. They don't need any further speech.
You're thinking the same thing. Like, oh, there's book police. That's them.
Well, I think to wrap up this episode, I think parents put a lot of pressure on themselves and they feel a lot of guilt.
Yes.
And they hold a lot of this stuff just through all of parenthood with all the things and all the choices and all the things we have to learn. So for parents who feel maybe self-conscious or worried about speech delays right now, or maybe how their kids mispronounce things, or how picky their kids are, now they're going to a family function and they have to feel embarrassed about it. What words of encouragement would you have for them?
I think that it is so important to talk to somebody about the things you're noticing. And if you're not getting the support that you're looking for or feel like you need, keep looking for that person, because there are so many families that get dismissed, unfortunately, by a variety of professionals. And, you might be their 4th phone call. But okay, we landed somewhere, right? So I think talking to people, finding what they're having success in their family, where have you gone for this? Or get connected with the Motherhood Alliance. Like, where can we help each other to like grow our village? And really just like trusting that gut. Because like I said, I feel like so many families are unfortunately dismissed. And that is so hard to hear when they finally land in front of you and you're like, okay, yes, this is like where we're supposed to be. Like, I can help you. So I think get connected and just like trust that instinct and just that gut feeling.
And keep trying.
Yeah.
Keep going until you find the answers you need.
Right.
So on these topics specifically, if somebody is just like, I want to ask some questions, I just want to have my kiddo evaluated or whatever, are they able to call you and kind of talk through what they're seeing, and then you can tell them if you would be a good fit, or how does the process work with you?
Yeah, I love connecting with families before actually going out, like for that first visit of the evaluation. It's an investment to get connected with professionals, and I always want to make sure that I am a good fit for the family of what they're looking for, and they feel like it's a mutually good fit. Because like you had mentioned, right, that relationship building is so important. And if you don't click with somebody, or hey, this isn't like my area of expertise, but like, let me help you get connected somewhere else, there's going to be another option. But yeah, I really like to connect with families, even just over the phone, or, like, hey, can we just jump on a video chat quick? And parents can give you the summary in 5 minutes if they want. It's quick. It's like, this is what I want. This is what I need. This is what, and that's a great place to start. So a phone call, definitely.
Awesome. And what's the best way to contact you or to find you or follow you?
So can reach me on my website, rootedAtHomeLLC.com. Otherwise, I have my contact information on there where families can plug in their information and then their concerns, and I will reach out to them.
And what is your travel radius? Since you said you go to people's homes, how far are you willing to travel?
I typically travel within 30 minutes of the Fox Cities area, but I do have families. Like I just saw a family last week in Sturgeon Bay. There's added costs that come to that just with the drive time and travel and whatnot. But yeah, I'm open to that, and also seeing families virtually, right? Like some families, it's not affordable to say like, hey, I want you to come to my house. I live this far away, but virtual, if COVID taught me anything, it is you can do so much intervention virtually, and it is effective.
Yeah. Good.
Great. This was a really good first episode of just giving everybody an overview on speech language pathology. I hope you guys all feel a little bit more empowered in understanding what it is and if it applies to you and or somebody that you know or love. So if you're thinking of a kiddo in your head right now that could benefit from this, make sure that you share this episode with them. In our next episode, we will be kind of continuing this conversation on the communication side of things and just talking about milestones and just tips. She has some awesome tips for how to encourage good communication from the beginning. So that's going to be in episode 2. In episode 3, we're going to be diving into feeding therapy and really mostly about picky eating, because I think that's where a lot of families are struggling. And then in episode 4, this one's going to be really fun. We're going to be talking about cooking with kids, because I think a lot of us as parents, we really start to lose our mind or our patience around cooking with kids, but we know it's important. And so we have some really fun ideas for helping you make it more play-based than work-based in the kitchen. So stay tuned for those episodes. They are the next ones coming up. If you enjoyed this episode, would you consider leaving a rating or review or sharing it directly with a friend who could benefit from the information? We know that you're a busy mom or caregiver, and our goal is to make your life easier by bringing tips and tricks directly from experts into your earbuds. By sharing this episode with someone you love, you can play a critical role in helping to make their life easier as well. We appreciate your time, and thank you for being a part of the Motherhood Alliance family.